turn the mics on. And a very good evening, and I want to welcome everybody to the Township of Bedminster Township Committee regular meeting for October 5th, 2015. We have our full complement of our Township Committee here tonight, and Ms. Sullivan, if you can help us out with the Open Public Meetings Act as soon as you get everything all plugged in. You know, we have a lot more technology now than we did just a month ago.
Okay. Yes. Adequate notice of this meeting in the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News in Somerville, to the Burnsville News in Burnsville, to all subscribers, and also posted here at the Township Municipal Building as of January 5th, 2015.
I will invite everyone to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the first thing I want to do tonight, I'm going to step out from behind the dais here. And by the way, when I say we have a little more technology than we're accustomed to, this is our second meeting. That little bubble there is recording this meeting, not only audio but visually. So we have video tonight. But now, is there a microphone I should probably be at since nobody can hear me on? There we go. All right. What I wanted to do tonight before we get into the regular portion of the meeting was recognize some people. Last month we had our Fall Fest, which raised money for our 7 Bedminster charities, and we don't want it to go too far in the fall without recognizing them and thanking them. They are representatives of a much, much greater group of people that came out and made Fall Fest happen. But I would like Nancy Larson, Zach Rubin, Janice Haggerty, Judy Sullivan to all step forward. I don't see Matt here tonight, so please. And now you have to come over on this side because now we have a camera. So this is a neat thing that mayors get to do is I can have a proclamation. And so I'm going to read this, and this is the thank you for the municipality. And it's a proclamation that reads, whereas the Bedminster Charities Fall Fest Committee has had a successful fundraising event where 7 nonprofit organizations, the Far Hills Bedminster Fire Department, the Far Hills Bedminster First Aid Squad, Pottersville Volunteer Fire Company, Bedminster School PTO, Friends of the Clarence Dillon Public Library, and the Friends of the Jacobus Vanderveer House, and the Center for Contemporary Art were given financial support through the efforts of the organization, and whereas the Bedminster Charities Fall Fest Committee undertook, organized, promoted, and presented all Fall Fest events to serve the organization's goals of raising funds for the 7 beneficiaries. And whereas, under their capable and professional direction, the Bedminster Charities Fall Fest Committee has been very successful in all of their efforts. Therefore, let it be resolved that Zach Rubin, President, Katie Rupert, Secretary, Judy Sullivan, Treasurer, Matt Edwards, Member at Large, and Executive Board members Janice Haggerty and Nancy Larson to be recognized for their dedicated service and hard work making the Bedminster Charities Fall Fest Committee an organization very successful in their fundraising efforts, and be it further resolved that the Township Committee of the Township of Bedminster joins with all the Bedminster Charities Fall Fest organization to congratulate and thank these deserving individuals for their time and dedication to the volunteer organizations that their fundraising efforts have benefited. And I want to thank you all. Now, I can only do one hand at a time. And this goes to Nancy, and this goes to Janice, and to Zach, and to Judy. And I want to thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone want, I have some figures here. I have some figures here which nobody can hear. But Zach, would you like to just say a few words on how we did?
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve. First, I want to thank you for the recognition. Thank you to the Township Committee. I think I saw each and every one of you there, even though it was kind of a rainy Saturday. First rainy Fall Fest we've had in years. A couple of things to highlight. We had just over 2,000 participants come this year, which is about par. And considering the weather, a pretty good success for this year. It was 2,435 people that came through the gate, which raised a total of, let's see here, $36,000 profit, which is pretty good. Last year we were able to give out $5,200. This year we're giving out $5,300 to each of the 7 charities. So able to increase that this year. A couple of people that I wanted to thank as well. Some who are here, some who aren't. Judy, obviously, Diane Gibson, Robin Ray, Chief Craig Meyer, Nancy, Janice, as well as some of our sponsors, Trump National, Fiddler's Elbow, AT&T, University Radiology, and Ferraro Engineering.
And I got to ask you, we had food trucks this year. How did the food trucks go?
Food trucks were a smashing success. I think it's the latest trend. I don't know if it's a fad per se, but I think we're going to try that again next year as well. I think it attracted more people, and I think that's the way to go.
Well, thank you all, and I want to extend a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the recognition. It's really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to serve.
And whereas we have social permits and resolutions and ordinances, proclamations and thank yous are fun. So I thank you all again. All right, getting back to the regular agenda, we have approval of meeting minutes. The regular agenda meeting for September the 8th, the closed session for the September the 8th, regular and closed session for September 21st. Does anyone have any comments or questions on those meeting minutes? If not,
There's a small amendment to the September 21st minutes that's in front of you.
I see. And just for note, yes, just to make sure that we remember, so we have 6 weeks, or is it now less than 6, for the marker on Hillside Avenue?
The change, the county informed us that they were ordering in September, and we will confirm that, but they also said it would take about 6 weeks for delivery. So if the weather, really the goal was to have a ceremony in June because the deed was in June. So, but, you know, we'll keep you updated when it comes in. We just wanted to note that the county was ordering the marker.
Okay, it's been a long time from preservation to recognition to still waiting on the marker for the cemetery on Hillside Avenue.
It will happen.
All righty. Having said that, can I get a motion for the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Permits and raffles, a social affair permit for the Amwell Valley Hounds. That's November 21st, 2015, 7 p.m. to 12 midnight at the Fiddler's Elbow Country Club. A social affair permit for the Seminar of Contemporary Art on December the 3rd, 2015, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., 2020 Burnt Mills Road. And finally, a raffle license for the Gill St. Bernard's Parents Association on November the 10th, 2015, 1 p.m., Hamilton Farms Golf Club. Any comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion on those.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Public comments. Twice every meeting, we invite folks to come up to that microphone that I used before and make a public comment on anything that's not on tonight's agenda. And you can also take another opportunity to comment at the end of the meeting. Come to the microphone, state your name and your address. Even though you'll be seen on the camera, we still need it for the audio portion.
Thank you. Brian Haggerty, Fairview Drive. On behalf of the Bedminster Board of Education, just want to bring some dates to the attention of the public. Tomorrow evening, there's an anti-bullying presentation at 7 p.m. at the school. And want to be clear, it's on the website. This is adult-oriented. It's aimed at the middle school parents primarily, and it ranges from physical to cyberbullying and how to cope and deal with that. Other dates, our next regular meeting of the Board of Education is October 22nd, the regular times, 6:30 executive session, opens to the public 7:30 at the school. And a very special thing, we haven't done this in a couple of years, I guess. October 26th, Monday, starting at 6 p.m., will be the board retreat. This is a goal-setting, planning, and visioning session. The public will have opportunity to speak. Most of it will be in public session if we have to discuss any particular personnel issues that may go into executive session briefly. No one ever comes. I never even went to these before I was on the board, but they're tedious, but really enriched meetings. It's something important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other members of the public? If not, we will move on to monthly reports from our subcommittee chairs, and we'll start as we do traditionally with Mr. Payne.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. On the 24th, we had the Bedminster Hills Housing Corp. Regular meeting, and what I can report back from that, I think, Mayor and the committee men and women, you'll remember that we had talked about making some interest and non-interest bearing and non-interest loans to the associations as part of the overall affordability assistance, and using the money from the trust fund for the betterment of our low and moderate income units. I have to say that after some extensive time of putting together security agreements, different mortgage docs that we would need to protect the interest of BHHC, there was very little interest on the part of the associations to pursue it. And the reason is that there was no way that the BHHC could secure their interest other than having access to their association reserve accounts and operating accounts, and that was something that the associations were unwilling to do. So without having that proper collateralization, it was decided that they were going to forego the entire idea of lending the associations any money, and rather take that money and then redirect it, as we are now, to no interest assistant loans to individual homeowners. That way we can actually put a lien on the property, so that we will be able to get that money back at some point. And then, of course, that would be only for those residents that meet the low and moderate income qualifications, and the ongoing grant program where there is down payment assistance to new owners, as well as actually grants the associations for specific approved capital projects. So that's where we're heading now with BHHC.
No, I'm sorry that program did not get more interest. The history behind it, for anyone that is interested, was that a lot of that money was COA money that the township had, and a couple of years ago, the state was looking for that money with the idea that if it wasn't being used for the betterment of the neighborhoods, that the governor wanted to get it back and put it in the state coffers. We transferred it over to BHHC with the idea that we could put that money to use for the neighborhoods. Now, we were also very interested in not having that money just simply get drained to zero in the matter of a couple of years. There certainly were plenty of projects that would take that money and drain it completely. We wanted it to become some sort of an endowment, something that would continue to work over years and years and years, and we thought no interest or low interest loans. We set it up as a sort of a line of credit so that associations could use it as seed money and leverage it for other big projects that they had, whether it be lighting or stairwells or parking lots, pavements, whatnot. So I'm a little disappointed that it hasn't seemed to get as warm a reception, since it's money that has to be paid back, as it would be as if it was a straight-out grant.
The good news is that it is going for affordability assistant loans to the actual homeowners. We can put a lien on the property. A lot of these loans are set up that upon the sale of the unit, we get our loan paid back from the proceeds. So that's a good part. Then that money can be put back to use. And then the other issue is the difficulty of people qualifying based on the income limits. Lenders are very hesitant to lend to these neighborhoods because of high default rates. So we're looking at different programs where we can either do down payment assistance or be able to help with closing costs, and that may be a little bit more of an inducement for the lenders, because the borrowers would have more equity to start out with.
All right. Well, thank you, Bernie.
Okay, you're welcome.
Mr. Olson?
Thank you, Mayor. I have not had any committee meetings since our last meeting, but there are some discussion to be had on the deer management program. I know we'll get to that under old business.
Okay. Mr. Jacobs?
Mayor, on September 29th, the Shared Court Subcommittee had a meeting. We'll be discussing the Shared Court situation a little bit further on. Immediately after the Shared Court meeting, we had a quick meeting. John was there regarding the affordable housing, the revisions to the housing element of the master plan. We made a decision that Mr. Banish would move forward with preparation of a plan that's consistent with the current affordable housing cases out there, which should be presented to the Land Use Board next few months or so. On September 30th, I attended the joint meeting of the Freeholders Mayors Roundtable and the Somerset County Planning Board. And a couple issues that were discussed at that meeting was, one, a presentation on the energy aggregation plan. And we've been sort of following this for a little bit. We finally got a little more detail out of the county. So at this point, the county has actually selected a countywide aggregator. So the private consulting firm that the county has selected is the Jersey Energy Group to actually run as the what's called the aggregator, and that starting probably in later this year, maybe November, December, that the Jersey Energy Group will start coming to each of the municipalities in the county to explain the county aggregation plan, what they want to do, and how they want to encourage each of the municipalities to participate. If they can get more participation, the expectation is that there'll be better benefits once the aggregation plan goes to market. It was also interesting that what the county had said is that in the last couple of years, in 2014, 2015, that there were some issues with the connectivity of the transmission grid in the PJM system, which created some uncertainty and depressed the interest in the aggregation markets. According to the presenter, that uncertainty is behind us at this point, and the expectations are that 2016, or maybe even late 2015, actually, I'm sorry, it would have to be 2016, would be a ripe opportunity to run the aggregation program and to go to market with a countywide system. So we can expect Jersey Energy Group to be coming in with folks from the county next couple of months.
And just to jump in, for those that haven't heard about energy aggregation within the municipalities, this came to us a couple of years ago as a proposal. I believe Plumstead Township down in Burlington County was one of the first, or maybe they're Ocean County, was one of the first to basically, if you read your electric bill, and who doesn't, there's a portion on there that allows you to pick a third-party vendor for your power. Just like in the old days when the Bell system was broken up, you could put Sprint or whatever as a long-distance company. And the idea is that there's a little competition amongst these third-party power suppliers, and they decided to take it one more level, and they said, well, if you can get a large group of people to all choose Company A, then Company A will give you some sort of a discount. So municipalities a couple of years ago were starting to look into the idea of signing up a whole town for Electric Company A. Now, people could still opt out, but it would be everyone in except for the couple that decide to opt out. We looked at it a couple of years ago, and then we heard that the county was looking to do it. Now, if you can get a neighborhood to do it, you can get a certain price. If you can get a whole town to do it, you can get a nice lower price. The theory is that if all of Somerset County goes in on an aggregation plan, you would get an even better price. So we sat on it for a couple of years. Well, we weren't expecting it to be a couple of years, but we sat on it until the county came up with a proposal, and it sounds like that may actually be coming around the corner.
Right. There was an indication that Somerville had already chosen to participate. So Somerville may be the first town to proceed, but these guys will be coming around. And what was interesting is that since we talked about it and then we sort of put it on hold as the county was developing its program, the fact that there was this uncertainty in the market, what was indicated was that probably all the participants were actually probably better off not jumping on it in the last 2 years and waiting for this uncertainty to settle out. So they fully anticipate that the energy providers, the third market or the third-party market providers, will be aggressive in 2016.
Well, we hope to get the word out when that meeting does occur, and then when the county and the energy aggregation folks come in. And Jake, maybe you can help us out by making sure people know about it before the meeting happens, so everybody's interests and concerns can be addressed.
Also, at the planning board, there was discussions about the current state of the affordable housing litigation, but I think we've all covered that in prior meetings, and certainly John at some point may be giving us an update specific to the town, but that might be for later on. There was also discussion about the priority growth investment area. These are the grants that Somerset County and North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority have in place for the 20-something priority growth investment areas that have been identified. They already ran a study, I think, on 7 or so. That leaves another 20 or 21 out there. And the only priority growth investment area that's in Bedminster is on the AT&T complex. And I will be meeting with the Somerset County planner tomorrow to see where we actually stand on the study, the selection, and the criteria that will be assessed in evaluating some planning alternatives for that area. So at the next meeting, hope to report back. And let's see. I'd also want to give just one, perhaps this might be the last one, from the video subcommittee. So as soon as Judy had sent us the link indicating that the video was live, I immediately forwarded it to my former subcommittee task force member, Carolyn Freeman. Carolyn and I were the Township Committee reps on the video subcommittee, and we talked about the single camera, where it'd be located, and how it'd be integrated with the rest of the systems and perhaps being used for additional boards such as Land Use Board. And Carolyn reported back that she did see the video, and it looks great, and she called us a photogenic bunch. Ooh. So there you go. And Mayor, that's it for
And I already
my presentation.
The Land Use Board was, the last meeting was already posted.
Not so photogenic.
Not so photogenic, the Land Use Board.
Oh, 2 of us weren't there.
Well, when we're there, maybe it goes up a bit.
There you go. All right, very good. Ms. Santucci, speaking of photogenic.
Thank you, Mayor. I do not have any updates since the last time we met.
All right.
So I'm photogenic and quick with my report, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Very good. I do not have anything personally to add, so we will go to the administrator's report. Ms. Sullivan.
Yes. As Committeeman Jacobs mentioned, both the last Township Committee meeting from September 21st and the October 1st Land Use Board recordings are available on our website. So it's all working very well. We didn't have any glitches. I wanted to give an update on the Hike and Bikeway Southwest expansion. I had the pleasure of taking a walk out there myself yesterday. Went from Burnt Mills all the way up to River Road and back again. Not 100% completed. There's still a little cleanup to do, and they have to install some fencing, safety fencing along the actual bridge that goes over the Raritan River, the area that is up next to the highway. But it looks pretty nice. So I invite everyone to take a walk. And just last week, we had the threat of Hurricane, and I'm going to say it wrong, Joaquin. John was on vacation for a couple of days, but he was in touch with everybody, making sure preparations were being done with his department, cleaning out things for drainage and that type of thing. I did make some calls to some surrounding towns just to make sure we were ready to jump in and help each other if we needed to. So fortunately, we didn't have to, but we were ready to take action if needed. So.
We did not stand up the OEM or LEPC, but I know I came in on Friday and asked Judy, how's it going?
Yeah.
And she gave me a full dissertation on what everyone was doing, and I just want to
We
thank...
got a call from RWJ, because they do our ambulance service during the day. Can they count on us for fuel supply if needed? I mean, we were ticking all the boxes.
When I came in Friday and asked Judy what was going on, and she gave me the laundry list, I just want to thank the staff for it sounded like everything was under control, and we got very lucky that it passed out to the east, but I thank the staff for what they did in preparation. All righty.
That's all.
All righty. So we'll go to discussion of introduced ordinances, which we have none. Introduction of ordinances, which we have none. Public hearing on ordinances, which we have none. Do we have anything on our consent agenda? Don't think so.
No.
So we have 3 resolutions tonight. The first one is Resolution 2015-120, and that is for refund of tax overpayment. One for about $47.97, and the other for a little over $1,500. Does anybody have any comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call vote. Mr. Payne?
Aye.
Mr. Olson?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you.
And I'm going to skip down to the third one because I'd like to talk about the second one. So we're going to go right on down to 2015-122, which is releasing a cash site improvement bond and a TCO bond that is for the Plucky. Does anybody have any comments or questions about that one? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Again, roll call vote. Mr. Payne?
Aye.
Mr. Olson?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you.
And the last one is Resolution 2015-121. It's the approval stipulation of a settlement with American Water Works Company. And some people may or may not be aware of that the EDC, as we know it, is for sale or was in negotiation for sale. And New Jersey American Water Works, is showing interest in buying it. And they came to us at the beginning of the summer looking for a resolution from this municipality and I believe other municipalities in support of that as they go before the Board of Public Utility. We hired special counsel Bill Mosca to help us out with that as an intervener in that negotiations with the Board of Public Utility. And this resolution is to approve that negotiation. Bernie, I don't know if you have anything you want to say about this.
Yeah, let me just say this, Mayor. In looking over the resolution, I know that in one of the whereases, it's talking about EDC not to file a petition with the board to increase rates to customers for a 5-year period. There was also, as we know, some other stipulations that we had gotten
But I think with this, we can talk about that.
in the resolution.
It's a public settlement agreement.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the things we asked for is a 5-year.
Stay out, which they call. So EDC, or the successor in this case, New Jersey American Water, will not seek in front of the BPU any rate increase for a period of 5 years, which effective if they started today, let's say 5 years out, it would be at least another year, if not longer, before they would even be able to go through the whole hearing process. So that is effectively really 6 years plus.
And how long has it been since you and Mayor Holtaway went and,
About
for the
5
last
years, isn't it,
rate?
Judy? 4 or 5 years?
At least 5, yeah, at least
Yeah, so we're going to be able to go a whole decade or longer without any rate increases for the both the bulk and the franchise users.
And something that's not mentioned in this resolution was another thing we asked for was a rate structure study.
Yeah, which American Water would then pursue a study and submit that to the town as to the different ways the rate structure could be altered, i.e. a user-based system to see if its feasibility.
So I know something that just about everyone on this board and past members of this board have heard from folks in the township that are customers of the EDC was, what's the possibility of a user-based rate system? Now, this doesn't put that into place, but it guarantees, should New Jersey American Water be approved for the purchase, that they will pledge to do a study on it. So we can at least peel back the onion and see what's inside and see if that's something that would be beneficial to the residents.
And the two other portions of the stipulation which do affect rates, number one there would be that they would address their infiltration problems throughout, especially in the franchise area. The more infiltration, the higher the cost of doing business is for them, which is then passed on to the ratepayers. And then to address their high level of bad debt and collectibles, because if somebody doesn't pay their sewer bill, then that's left up to everybody else to pay it. That is, again, folded into rate making, because EDC is guaranteed, or in this case New Jersey American Water, they are guaranteed a certain amount of profit margin that they are entitled to make. So by decreasing their costs and making it more efficient, then that is another factor in stabilizing rates.
So I'm guessing we may be the first town with a resolution, or has one of
I'm
the
not
other towns?
aware if any other towns have adopted it as of yet, and I'm not familiar with either Peapack, Gladstone, or Far Hills.
I did speak with Mr. Mosca, and he said that it's moving along with the other towns, just a matter of getting in front of their boards and getting on the agendas, and then doing something similar to what we just did today,
All right,
or about to do.
all right. Any other comments or questions on this resolution?
No comments from me. Bernie, I think, addressed all those items that we discussed previously.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
Well, Mayor, what about the issue, should be reflected in the resolution about the study and some of the I&I filtration issue?
Well, I asked John before we started here if it had to be in there. It's in the agreement.
Yeah, I mean, the resolution obviously is just merely to approve the settlement agreement. You certainly could put it in the resolution if you wish, but it's in the settlement agreement, so it becomes a binding part of the agreement.
I guess the only thought is that once this gets widely disseminated among people, I would like the users to know that there's more to it than just that part.
If you want it revised, I could go back for the next meeting and do that.
Or do we want to, maybe we don't want to wait, though,
The agreement is the agreement. This is just a resolution
All right,
that
I
supports
can
that.
live with it either way, I mean.
Does the agreement become public as well?
The agreement
You
is,
can always post
the agreement is public now.
You can always post.
I mean, because
you know.
you're voting on it, so.
Yep.
But you can always post, if
Right,
we need
you
to
can
post
post
it
a
on our
link to it,
website,
yeah.
that would be explanatory.
Yeah. We've all seen it in the executive session, so. All right, then, any other questions? If not, I'll take a motion.
I'll move that.
Roll call vote, Mr. Payne?
Aye.
Mr. Olson?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, we have approval of the bill list. I will entertain a motion to approve the bill list pending the approval of individual invoices.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call vote, Mr. Payne?
Aye.
Mr. Olson?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you.
Discussion items. We have, first is the expansion of the shared municipal court with Bernardsville Borough. Larry, do you want to mention anything more about that than?
No, it sounds that we have 3 willing participants. Bedminster, P-PAC Gladstone, and Burnsville. And it sounds that we have the governing body in Burnsville, the police force, the borough administrator, all supportive of the prospects of joining the shared court. And I think at this point, it's a matter of each of the towns coming up with an agreement to replace the agreement we currently have with P-PAC Gladstone and moving forward. And the plan is to have this all in place by the beginning of the year so that we can select all the appropriate professionals, new prosecutor, public defender, to cover all three towns.
And I think we meet again another week or two?
Judy, you have, I think we're meeting on the 15th,
Uh,
but you have an internal meeting
We
with
have a staff meeting later this week.
Right. We are reconvening on October 15th.
Okay. Any questions? All right, we do have a bit of new business
You're
here.
drafting the agreement?
I haven't seen anything
You will be drafting the agreement.
on this. That let me know.
I have some changes to a draft I'm going to be sending shortly.
Okay.
Be ready for that.
Ready?
Best,
Yeah.
new business, best practices checklist 2015. Ms. Sullivan, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'm hoping that maybe you've had a chance to look at it already. Every year, every town in New Jersey must review the best practices checklist. There's 50 items of things that towns should be doing. They're in different categories. There's finance, healthcare, contract negotiation, audits, budgets, all kinds of things. Of the 50 questions, if you answer yes, that you're doing it, you get a point. If you answer that it's not applicable to your town or that you're in the process of doing that, you also get a point. If you answer no, no point. And towns have to score at least a 41 or better to maintain 100% of their state aid for the year. If you score less than 41 points, a portion of your fourth quarter state aid you will not receive it. And depending how low your points are, can go down from that 5% can go down to 0. So, the better you do, the worse you are. This is primarily on Debbie Stern, the CFO, and myself to go through this. We certify that the answers that we're giving to all the questions are correct. And one of the requirements is that we present it to the Township Committee for their overview and questions if there are any. And I can report we got a 45 out of 50. We did take 5 no's. But we are still in the score we need to be.
Right.
So,
Well, one
any
thing,
questions or?
yeah, one thing I'll ask, it says in preparing your annual budget, a
What
longer-term
what-
surplus projection.
Okay, so they want to see that you at least discuss a 2-year surplus schedule when you're discussing your budget. We do discuss surplus, but being honest, we usually only discuss 1 year at a time. We've never projected 2 years out. And we certainly could, but it just seems that we never, by the time we get to the second year, the plans change.
Yeah, but we do a 5-year capital budget, so.
This would be the surplus that replenishes the budget for the following year.
Judy, in looking over this, I mean, it is really a state one-size-fits-all, and I think we can all agree that Bedminster is a little unique when it came to some of those questions. We didn't fit squarely in the box, and I think maybe we had to say no on a couple.
Well, one of the no's we had to
Yeah,
take
yeah.
that I took exception to is the fact that we don't offer the state health benefits plan.
Yeah, we do that because we're saving money.
We're saving money in the
Well, because we
HIF.
have a
We do
different
better.
health insurance plan that saves us more money than going to the state health benefits plan. But I had to take a no.
Right,
So.
right. So we scored good enough, right? We moved,
Oh, we did well, yeah.
we made the playoffs, so that's
We're
good.
very competitive. We like to
Yeah, so.
get the highest score.
All right. All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Judy.
Okay, thank you.
Old business, we have a couple items on the old business. Deer management plan, we spoke last time. I think a new development since we spoke the last time is that we're expecting to get the application for folks that wish to participate out onto the website, and hopefully we'll have that this week.
I hope to do that as early as tomorrow. If everyone's in agreement, we're ready to move forward.
I don't have any problem.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of interest here, and if I could just provide perhaps some baseline, again, to refresh everybody's memory as to where we are, and I'll do a very quick review, but over a process of what's been, 5 or 6 months now, the Township Committee has endeavored to put in place a framework for an annual deer management program. And as of this point, we have approved the framework, which is really agnostic as to how and which properties will be hunted on a yearly basis. So it's entirely possible that one year we will hunt, and maybe just in one section, and in other years we would hunt in other areas. But what was lacking in the town was a framework for managing the herd as necessary. So far, we've recommended 4 properties, again, considering all different types of criteria, primarily safety as being the most important, since we haven't run this type of program before. But also, I think what came into play is some diversity of location to try to have some impact, a reach, not just in one area of the township. But what has not yet happened this year is that we've invited New Jersey Fish and Game to come out to assist in doing what we believe will be an annual look at the numbers that are here. And most importantly, I think, was Mr. Scott Stevens, who came forward very early in the process, and he and I had a number of conversations. Also, we're very aware that there's a large segment of private property owners in the north of Lamington section that do deer management on their properties. And certainly in parallel to the township's effort to put in a framework are the benefits of ongoing discussions with all the property owners to see if we can leverage each other's information and make appropriate judgments on an ongoing basis as to, maybe who's doing what and what the relative roles might be between the township and private property owners. So with regard to this year, I think where we're at is the applications are going to go out with the mindset of being prepared to have hunters should in fact the decision be made that there is a need to reduce populations in one or both areas that are going to be looked at. But again, I think what we want to do is continue to have very vigorous conversations with all property owners and all others who may be involved in active deer management, so that we can get a bigger view. Because frankly, the minimum amount of property that the township will be hunting here is not going to have a township-wide impact. What I think the township needs to have is something in place in order to play its role, but the ideal situation is that we all work together. So I'm anticipating some interest or hopefully perhaps some comments on where we are today, questions, any concerns. But I just want to make the committee aware I'm in active dialogue with a couple of folks representing large segments of property in the north of Lamington area. And, Mr. Stevens, if you'd like to continue in that dialogue that we started and took a couple of months off for summer vacay, I think now would be a good time to reinvigorate a conversation or put together the kind of association that, Bernie, you had seen years ago, and we could certainly benefit by having a much larger view as to the annual culling that's taking place on a larger scale. So, in conclusion, the application is ready. I think applications are going to be solicited, but we have not yet made any decisions as to whether or not the properties, in fact, will be hunted, and if so, what any targets might be. And we want to continue to have dialogue with all the private property owners who have an interest in this.
And I'll take it just one more iteration out into the bigger picture. Our Environmental Commission for years has been on this committee to try to get some sort of a deer management program on the books. They were looking for a budget for it to have professionals in there. If you get out into the forest anywhere in Somerset County, specifically I'd invite you to go down to the Doris Duke Estate, where they actually have an area of their wilderness that's fenced off to keep deer out. And if you can see the forest floor where the deer have access and where they do not have access, you'll see a stark difference. And that essentially there's very little undergrowth, and most of that is due to the overpopulation of deer. Any of us that drive around town, any of us that drive a car, know that that deer are an ever-present danger for car accidents, and we see a lot of roadkill on the side. And a lot of us have know people, if not have been victim themselves, of Lyme disease. So it was never a matter of whether we needed to have a deer management program. Mr. Payne, many years ago, pioneered a program to encourage private property owners and hunting groups to get together on a purely volunteer basis. And when I was first assumed mayorship 3 years ago, we didn't have a program, or at least we didn't have a program that anybody could actually explain. I said we're not going to have any hunting on township land until we had a program that somebody could hand to somebody that was objective, that had, as Mr. Olson said, an actual framework. Safety's paramount. Get in, get out. This is not a hobby program. This is not to give the keys to the township to a small group of people to use as their own. It is defined objectives, days, maybe 5 or 6 days throughout the entire year. Get in, get out, get the job done. So it is not about private hunters getting access to township land for recreational hunting.
Mayor, if I could add a couple of items. In that volunteer program that you spoke about several years ago, that was basically to afford property owners who didn't have any active hunting on their property, but yet wanted to have some type of deer management program, and this was just a way for us to facilitate, act as a conduit for area hunters to be able to contact the property owners directly. And there were several properties, as you know, that participated, and I think some of them even to this day have the same hunters on those properties. Other properties, people had friends, relatives, or other people that were actually hunting the property for a long period of time. But it was the idea of opening up as much land as we could.
Right.
Now, and that's where this township program, I think, fills another void, because there's township property.
Yep.
So I concur with you, Mayor, that it's very important, and Ken too, that we have a program on the books. How we use it, when we use it, if we use it, that's a decision we can make, but we need to have a framework. It has to be on the books. It has to be readily accessible, I think, for anybody to see. It has to be well vetted. So I'm very much in favor of having the program, and then we can work on the details of how we implement it.
So having said that, I'm going to guess that we have a few people in the audience that might be interested in asking questions or making comment. So if you do, I would just ask you to come to the microphone, state your name, your address, and either ask your question or give us a comment. if you do. And if not, we'll continue on too. But I don't want you to come here and not be heard if you feel that it's necessary.
So I was here earlier, I wasn't really expecting to talk tonight, but my name's Scott Stevens, I live on Spook Hollow Road. My question is, where are the problems with the deer collisions? What roads are they, do we have a survey on that where this is happening the most? Or,
I wouldn't say we have a scientific survey where it's happening the most, but I can tell you, I know I've hit deer twice in the past 3 years on my road, although we don't have deer management next to our road because we don't have township property. Although I know part of my family's property, we have a hunting deer management program. But I think if you just look around the township, you can see evidence of car accidents and deer.
maybe on
202,
202, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't think there's a problem on gravel roads. I'm not sure if there's a problem on Black River Road. I mean, I drive those roads all the time for 4 years, and I haven't hit a deer or come close to hitting a deer, so. I think a lot of the people that live out here, we live out here for a reason. We love nature, we love our privacy. And my biggest concern is having people coming into our area. There's enough traffic already. We have some new buildings going on. We have, Uncle Bill's, so there's more traffic. And the reason I moved here is to get away from the helter-skelter, and I like the outdoors. I like to hunt, and I have a lot of friends. I know most of the people north of Lamington Road, and Fairview Farm has a program going on already. Andy Price, him and his family have a big piece of property. He's a hunter. He has friends that he lets hunt so we can keep the deer herd in control. And I've been talking with Ken, and we're going to do as much as we can to make sure we do a good number on the does. The does are the problem. And that should solve a lot of problems. I mean, Lyme's disease is everywhere. I mean, let's be realistic. It's not just in Bedminster, it's everywhere. And fortunately, I've never had it. I'm in the woods all the time. Maybe I've just been lucky, but I know it's nothing to, shove aside. It's pretty serious. Another thing I was talking to Ken earlier, maybe if we're doing these things, we should approach landowners that are adjacent or beside some of these properties and see how they feel about it, if they would like it. Instead of, I think that would maybe be another way to view it, to go after it. Let's talk to the people that back up to town property and see how they feel, if they would be for it or against it. Maybe some people don't want to see the deer killed. I don't know, but it might be something that we, so everybody is on the same page and has a view.
I can answer one of the questions, Scott, and that is, to the extent that there's concerns among anybody about increased traffic or, large numbers of people coming in. The vision is, let's say if, okay, underline if the Black River Road property were to be hunted this year, what it would be traffic-wise a non-event. I mean, we're talking about probably 5 days, right, by an individual hunter on 5 days. This wouldn't be an influx. It wouldn't be. The property would not be made available to anybody who wants to hunt. So out of the applications that are received, what would happen would be, after an assessment is made as to what the goals are, right, and hopefully after cooperation with all the local property owners, and we understand the activity of management that's going on for that year, if a judgment were to be made that the township property were going to be used and there was a goal, like take 10 doe, we would go to the application pool, find out, what the rank order, who's passed the test, and, randomly select, okay, Joe, you're going on a Tuesday from, until you collect as many as you can. But I certainly would want to make sure that everybody understands we violently share the concern of somehow creating or opening up, the privacy that we enjoy to a bunch of transient hunters coming in and having an unfortunate cultural impact that certainly I don't think would be ever realized, but would be very vigilant on that. Certainly a lot of the other issues you raise are very legitimate. One of the things that I think we need to consider is on some of the properties that are being selected, the actual, migratory habits of the herds. I mean, these herds are not very migratory, that's probably not the right word, but to the extent that they're synergistic with adjacent properties, right? And is it possible for a location to be fully culled, managed by a private property owner if enough were taken at that point so that the dispersion would address our needs? That is exactly, I think, where we want to get some data, right? And bring into the conversation, some objective data from Fish and Game, and then sit down, using township resources that, okay, we have some land, and then figure out, what are the other property owners around there? How willing are they? Do they have active management programs? Could perhaps that they be used to cull extra to offset the population on the township? I mean, I think we're a body that always favors private solutions, whenever we could have them. But what we never wanted to do is abdicate the township being a part of, a solution when it's necessary.
Ken, if I could add something, and Mr. Stevens, the data that these other landowners have who have active ongoing management programs, I think it would be very useful.
Absolutely.
If we knew how many doe were being taken on these properties over the last 2 or 3 years, whether or not, as some people seem to indicate, there's a depletion in the herd because of disease. That would be very useful information, because if the problem is being managed effectively on a majority of privately owned property, then the need to go on public land may be very diminished. So that's useful information that you and the other people, I assume the other
Deer go
gentlemen in the
to
audience-
food. If they go to food, they need food, water, and cover. And you go down Long Lane at night, you can look at a soybean on the left, and there could be 40, 50 deer in that field. That's what's good right now, and that's where they're feeding. Soybeans dry up, they move somewhere else. They're going to go on to corn, or they're acorns. Right now, they're on acorns. But that's where the deer are. My feeling is going to Black River Road, Cedar Lane's farm has a program. They're right there. That abuts their property. They have a program. They have 600 acres. I could be wrong. I'm not going to speak for Robert Lewis, who manages the property, but so now we're going to go on 75 acres, which is very narrow along Black River Road. I'm not sure if that's really going to benefit anybody. That's just a thought of
I
mine.
think that's where we need some data, and we need to pool resources, right? We need
Yeah.
to sit down together and say, okay, the information we're getting, this data says this, your data says this. I mean, like Bernie said, if we could find out the history of the deer management programs in the local area and what you guys are seeing and what you're anticipating, that's a huge add-on. We're only going to get a single data point from State Fish and Game. They're going to come out, they're going to get whatever data they're going to give us. But the more we can talk and understand the bigger picture and who's doing what, we can make much more informed judgments.
And the more properties that are managed, the better overall management of the herd. The properties that are left unmanaged end up becoming sanctuary properties. And then the other danger is that without proper control, then you also have poaching. And we don't want poaching on township land either. Now, that's kind of a whole different.
Well, that was, Mayor, that was kind of the idea, that original volunteer program, that if you had enough compliance from property owners throughout the town, then you really wouldn't care about the township property unless, as you said, they became sanctuaries, so that's where
Right.
the deer were being driven to, and then you'd have to address it. But,
Yeah.
that was the idea. The more land under
management.
control and under management, the problem goes away.
And the municipality, I always thought, needs to do our fair share. We're not a huge landowner in the municipality, in the township, but we have enough land that we ought to be participating as well.
Another question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, are we doing just does? Are you guys looking to do does or bucks and does?
No, it would be does.
So you think we can find people that are willing to take their weekends off and come and kill does? That's great, but I'm not sure if that's realistic.
Well, the people and the applicants understand that this is not recreational hunting. Okay, this is active deer management. This is
okay.
to serve herd management. So, that certainly is part of the application process. This is to come in, do a job, and get out.
Right, because with our program, with the people I'm working with and talking to, we enjoy having a deer get to maturity, whether it's 5 years old or 6 years old, so we can have the opportunity to harvest them. So we want to do our diligence with the does, because with too many does doesn't help them. It puts stress on the bucks too, but we'd like to see our bucks get to a certain age. And that's what the landowners here, the people that are here behind me, that's what we want to see. We want to be able to hunt our own land that we bought, pay taxes on, and be able to harvest animals that reach maturity instead of having to go to Ohio or going to Illinois. And we believe that we can have the same type of hunting here if we manage it properly. And if we can all work together and get it done, that would be great.
Another idea, and I'm throwing spaghetti against the wall here, but would be to the extent the representatives from the adjacent lands who may have an active deer management program, perhaps they'd like to be applicants to the township property. I don't know if that would reduce some of the apprehensions, but if you had a larger swath of land to perhaps participate in.
But again, Ken, this is not recreational hunting.
No,
it's not about recreation. It's about getting a job done. And I will say one thing I've been concerned about. We've gotten pushback, what appears to me, from two separate areas. One, there are people that think that there should be no hunting under any circumstance. Okay, I understand that point of view. And then there seems to be pushback with the theory that if there's hunting on township land, it might take away game that I would like to hunt. Well, we can't have it both ways. Ultimately, the goal is to lessen the deer population so that the better environmental impact, better safety on our roads, and again, it's a get in, get out, and it's not something that the whole blooming season people are going to be in there every day hunting. That's not the goal at all.
Well, that's good, because I know you weren't here the last time I spoke, Mayor. When I first bought my property, there were other people hunting properties around me, and I had some issues, and I just don't want to open up a whole new can of worms and go through that again. Because I had people, they park down on the property lines, and guess what? When they get to that spot, they can go any which way, and they're on 3 or 4 different properties. And they were doing that. I caught them. And I don't want to get back to that. I'm sure we're going to have these people are going to be screened, and we're going to get the right people, but it's just something that is always out there, and the landowners don't want to see that. They don't want trespassers. They don't want people on their property.
We want to see a selected group that's very controlled, that has a very specific job to do, that is going to a specific location, and not kind of just, I'll go off here, and it looks like there's some good hunting over there. No, we want, if they're going to have stands or however they're going to work it, that they're in a specific location to do a specific job on a specific day, and that we know who they are. Although I won't say it was patterned after the Fairview Farm. I know we did talk to the folks at Fairview Farm 2 years ago to try to find out what are their mechanisms. How do they keep track of who's where? How do they know that they're in there? How do they know that they're getting out? And that was something that we took into consideration. Again, we want to be very controlled, not just here's the keys to Bedminster Township, have fun.
Yeah.
That's absolutely the antithesis of what we want.
And to your point, Mayor, it was even as specific that we would have these individual hunters. They'd have specific days that they were going to be on specific properties. They'd have to check in with the police department. They'd have their license plates. They would know precisely when they were on the property. They would be available by cell phone. They would have to check when they checked off the property with the police department. So the idea of people just wandering aimlessly.
We would expect to see signage on those properties, deer management going on today. So the idea that it's just a random day in October or November, hey, there's 3 pickup trucks on township property, I guess, that's not what we're looking at. That's not the expectation behind this.
Well, I just think myself and other landowners in our area and land managers that manage big pieces of property would like to have the opportunity to look after the deer herd ourselves. That's all we're asking. I think we can do it ourselves. We have enough hunters. I've had meetings at my house with people, with other hunters, colleagues, and I said, let's make sure we do number. The township wants some numbers. I said we want to keep track of all the does, what we harvest, so we can go back and show them that we're doing our due diligence and getting the job done. That's all we're asking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your input.
As a follow-up, if all you in attendance would like to, continue to communicate with me, maybe we could set up some time at some point soon to talk about what each of you are doing and begin that process, right, of approaching this as a group. Good?
I think he's about to go
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
He's going to be communication right now.
Oh, good, second speaker, that's great.
Aaron Lobel,
Aaron.
Lions Mill Road, how are you? Mayor Parker, we spoke last time and you had stated that you live over on or near Airport Road and that you'd hit 2 deer over there. Are there any hunting areas over there for the town in particular? And
No.
I ask this question because many of the deer problems in that area are from Bridgewater Township. You drive down Country Club Road, as soon as you go over that little bridge, the deer are in the lawn with, having margaritas, waving at everyone as they pass by. I mean, it is like, it's deer central. You go into the underbrush there is none. You can look underneath everyone's house and see houses, houses, houses. And those deer are the ones coming this direction. If you don't have anything over there, how do you plan on using River Road as a hunting location? I mean, you're going to have to chase the deer in that direction.
Let's not make the good the enemy of the perfect.
I'm not-
Is my point. And I'm just saying, all we can do is control
Right.
land that Bedminster owns. I can't do we can't do anything about what goes on in Bridgewater.
Right.
I can't do anything about what goes on Bedminster land that's not owned by the town of Bedminster. So all we had was certain swaths of property that we have control over. So again, we had a fellow here a couple weeks ago that says, this is not going to cure all of our ills. It isn't going to cure all of our ills, but it's going to be our part of trying to manage the greater herd. And unfortunately, that's all. You're probably right. We're certainly going to have encroachment from Bridgewater. We can have encroachment from Chester. We can have encroachment from Tewksbury. All we can do is control a couple pieces of land that the township has. And it's a very modest program, believe it or not.
I have been in contact with Mr. Olson. We have a dialogue going on. Hopefully we get to meet again and have a chat on it. You guys are planning on getting Fish, Game, and Wildlife to give you a response on. I had given Mr. Olson what our deer management, we were 15 to 20 this year. If Fish and Game Wildlife says, 25, 30, we can easily take that off of the property over there that butts River Road. And the reason that is because, again, as Mr. Stevens said, it's a large property. It's 500 acres. So, you're going to send in for a few days hunters to get 5 or 6 deer, not really seeing how they're going to guarantee the deer coming through there unless you're pushing them off property where they're already happy or you're baiting. Either way. I understand the practice of doing it. The concern is these hunters are vetted, as he would said they are, and I like the way you guys are doing that. We just want to make sure everything is above board and the transparency is there. One of the things we did notice last time in the Burnsville News, there's no one in this town that carries Burnsville News. They used to, over by the post office, one of the delis. No one has it anymore. If we could
Jake,
get a Burnsville
listen.
News box, and we're even outside this building, a little flyer, we can go, we'll even pay the
Oh, the post office has one.
Quick check.
No, they did.
check
I went to
has
the
it.
post office. Nope, no longer.
No,
Check
it's
over in,
206.
yeah.
Yeah.
Butler's carries it.
They did? We had to get it.
Jake, get on that.
Yeah, I think you got to go to Butler's far.
But the other point is, there seems to be a lot of concern that the next door neighbor is the township and the township's going to have hunting. But your property,
Not necessarily.
everybody's property has another neighbor.
Right.
And you can't control the other neighbor not
Well,
hunting.
I'll give you an example. Mr. Collier understands that you want to do hunting on the edge of his property. He does a deer management focus using Quality Deer Management Association's proven tactics. We have been taking care of the deer for years now. I'll try and get you numbers showing what deer we've taken off to lower the amounts and take care of the herd. We do like to keep bucks around. Does, get rid of them. They're the ones next year, you get rid of a doe this year, next year it's not going to have a baby.
Yep.
You've already started solving the problem. What he doesn't want to see, preferably, is that, you start hunting over here, and then this year you get 5 deer, and you're like, oh, it went all great. Next year, you're on this side of his property, you guys are moving around these different areas. You might not be next to Mr. Stevens' property this year, but if it goes well, next year you guys might try to push to have that done. We just want to see that there's
But there
that
is a
transparency.
schedule and a framework and an open framework where we're going to discuss all that.
We just-
So everybody's going to have input into
And
that.
our statement is to
So-
keep that going.
Yep. Yeah.
Keep that transparency alive, please. So I will be in contact with you, Mr. Olson.
We'll continue our dialogue and expand it to whoever would like to participate in the conversation, and we'll open up the kimonos and share all data and figure out what the right thing to do is.
Perfect.
Good?
Thank you.
Great.
Nope, thank you. appreciate your comments. Please, anyone else?
I just had a comment to say pose and doze only. I couldn't get that out.
I'm writing it down, though. All right.
Catchphrase.
I like that. All right. Okay, is there any other comments? All right. Anybody else from the dais? All right, well, let's move on to the Pony Farm. I don't know that there's been any change since we last spoke on the Pony Farm.
Have you spoken to Stuart?
I have not gotten any feedback.
Good follow-up.
What would be the winterization schedule, John?
I'm going to probably within the next couple of weeks have my contractors in there and winterize the property.
Do you have an expense, an estimate?
It's probably less than $1,000.
Okay. NJDOT project, I'm going to hit that before the ordinance change. Just a reminder, yet again, October the 19th in this chamber, that's Monday the 19th, 10 a.m., NJDOT is going to be in here to give a discussion on the repair and closure of the bridge between Bedminster and Far Hills, right near the fairgrounds in Far Hills. Please get the word out. That will be a special meeting of this body.
It's a special meeting so
Yep.
everyone can
So
attend.
we can all attend. And then lastly, I want to talk about potential ordinance changes. And we've had fire prevention and the code official. We've gone a long time in trying to work on some potential ordinance changes. But one of the things that came up in this discussion has been who we can grant waivers to and who we cannot. And I don't know, Mr. Bellardo, if you have any words for us on that tonight, or if this is not the right time to
No,
talk about it?
I do, Mayor. There are a class of users that you can grant waivers through pursuant to the state construction statute. Your present ordinance mirrors that, and I think it's just a matter of cleaning that up a little bit to match the state statute, unless you wish to attempt to further expand things.
All right. Any comments or questions on that?
No, I think we should wait for a revised draft from Mr. Bellardo and then discuss it.
I'll circulate that within the next week.
Terrific. All right. Is there any other new business that's not on the agenda tonight?
I have one item, Mr. Mayor. And I've recently taken to walking the hike and bike trail fairly regularly, and I think it's, for me, I've been around for, a good 14, 15 years, but I haven't traveled the entire trail, and I've been doing that and loving doing it, and Bernie and I actually went out today, and it's something I really, have come to enjoy and appreciate. It's also given me, a look at it, and I know, John, this is in no way a criticism of DPW. I know you've been down this road many times before, so I've gotten a pretty good, and for everybody's sake, what I'm talking about is there's an inconsistency in how the property's managed around as far as the, might call it the quality of the lawn mowing or repairs, or some of the streams might need, some boulders or something to get across, and all of this changes with the seasons and whatnot. But in kind of, thinking about it, we owe a responsibility to you and to the township to make sure that we're adequately managing that trail, the series of trails, and to my simple way of thinking, if we had your best estimate as to what would a reasonably predictable annual maintenance program look like that would force the conversation during budget time or whenever we have to consider this. If one were to say, okay, we always want the trail to be mowed at this level, right? And, other nuisance issues like the rails are, falling off on the Miller Lane section. I don't know if some of those repairs were done, but I was out there last week. the Hurricane Sandy, there's still police cones around a little section. When you get in at the Miller Lane section and you go down south, and I know this is just a resource constraint, I would imagine it is anyway, but how do we have more timely and predictable maintenance of that entire system? And it's, instead of it falling on you to be reactive when somebody calls, or however those properties are managed at this point in time, to put in a predictable cadence of management. And is that, if that's a resource limitation, I think we, need to be actively involved in trying to figure out how to make that happen. But given, the amount of users, I think it's unfortunate that...
That's not a comment on you, Ken.
Yeah, no, I'm talking too much today.
Siri's button in.
So speak slower for Siri.
Yeah. I welcome your thoughts or comments, but I really, tonight, I just wanted to initiate a conversation. Didn't put it on the agenda, but I'm thinking perhaps as a follow-up. Again, what my provocative statement is for the evening is, let's have like a one-page annual understanding of what it takes to keep the entire thing well-groomed for the year. I mean, right now you can't, there's no discernible trail. When you go south of River Road and you walk in, there's a trail that lasts about 50 yards and then it becomes overgrown, and you have to look for the tree markers and kind of find your way through.
So you're talking two different locations. You're talking
I am.
bike trail, and then the trail system we currently have.
I've walked as much as everything at this point, and there's different issues in different places, absolutely.
I think the best thing to do, not to lengthen this meeting any, that
Yeah.
maybe you, myself, and Bernie, and maybe Judy can have a conversation on the side. And
Absolutely.
We can start this conversation.
Absolutely.
There's a lot more to this than just a 2-minute discussion on my side at this point in time.
I agree, and didn't mean to,
And I
do anything other than introduce
apologize
it.
to the community for some of the things that we do, but unfortunately, my department is somewhat more reactive than it is to be proactive, and that's not the way I'd like to do things.
I agree with you, yeah. And that's my main point. We need to take some accountability for making sure that you have the resources and we have that conversation. I know how strained you guys are, so that's it.
All right. Public comment. We promised a second round of public comment. If there's anything that anyone wishes to say that hasn't been said tonight or hasn't been addressed, please come to the microphone and state your name and your address and ask a question or bring up a comment. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to Township Committee comments. We'll start with Mr. Payne.
Mayor, just one thing I was going to add in our discussion on EDC, just to anticipate what I think could be a reaction from some people when they look more at at our stipulated settlement, would be the natural knee-jerk reaction would be, well, how come rates didn't go down? It's thinking that somehow what we put forth is not a win for the consumer. Suffice it to say, without going into a lot of rate making, arcane rate making, is that the idea of lowering rates would have been a Herculean task for the township to embark on. Very expensive.
Well, it's
with no uncertain
It's a different
outcome.
mechanism.
Exactly.
The point
I'm
is that's a
saying.
rate challenge.
Right, and we understand that, but to the average citizen, when they see this and they say, oh, 5-year rate moratorium, yeah, but rates are so high anyway, so they should have been, when the township committee, bring them down. And I just want to make sure that the word gets out there that that's not so easy to accomplish, if it's even
Well, I think
accomplished at
council
all.
told us, Bernie, that it was not possible as part of this transaction.
Of course.
This is an acquisition of one company by another that requires BPU approval. we have the opportunity to intervene and provide comments to BPU in that, and our attorney made it clear, Bill Moska made it clear that this was not an opportunity to lower rates or to compel them to lower rates.
Yeah, we know that.
Right.
Yeah, we know that, yeah. No, those are all good explanations.
Some of the terms we're using were just not quite legal in the sense of this transaction, so I just want to straighten that.
Those would be the consumer.
But we did, but we did have an opportunity through the BPU hearing to get some asks of the potential buyer, and they appear to have looked to agree with some of the bar asks. And that's essentially our choice was to be a bystander and watch this transaction go in front of the BPU and not be an intervener, or we could have chosen to participate. We chose to participate. We also chose to invite our neighboring towns of Bernards, Far Hills, and Peapack Gladstone, and Bernardsville?
No, not
just those.
Burnsville.
But we invited our other towns to participate, and I think what we're getting out of this is something very successful for the ratepayers of EDC. No, it is not a challenge of the rates, but we're going to get a freeze.
Given the playing field that we're on, I think we accomplished everything that we could possibly get out of it.
And I don't think anybody would have thought of that until he actually brought it up.
Well, Bernie's been at this a few years.
I've had sewer wars before. Okay, I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran of this.
You know, Bernie's got a lot of
Scars.
Yeah, it's not like having a P-50. I don't know what you would put on the side of the airplane then. Never mind. All right, Mr. Olson, do you have anything?
Nothing further, man.
Okay, Mr. Jacobs,
Nothing further, Mayor.
Ms. Santucci.
I'm sorry Zach left a little early, but I really did want to thank everybody again from Fall Fest. We had a really good time. Janice put together a fantastic silent auction. Judy pulled everything together. Zach did a fantastic job. And really, he motivates everybody because he's out there, getting the job done. And nobody wants to go back, 9 o'clock the next morning and clean up when it's rainy and muddy. But everybody does a really good job motivating, and the harder everybody else works, you feel like you want to work that hard. So really good team, and I just want to thank everybody for putting it together. It was a lot of fun, even in the rain. It was actually a little bit more fun.
Well, to be fair, we extended it till 6 o'clock, and I think the rain gods decided 5:15 was about as long as we could stay. But it was we had a few drips of rain during, and just a little bit at the end of the day. But boy, it certainly did not stifle the crowd. We still had a great crowd. So, and I know that the people we brought up tonight were just the tip of the spear, as they say. But
so many volunteers, and sitting around that table, and everybody going, wait, I can do that, and I can bring this, and I'll have that, and that's the fun part of it. And people kind of get creative and go, oh, okay, we don't have that anymore. We'll call so-and-so, and it's a little bit of Celebrity Apprentice, a little bit, so it's kind of fun, but just want to say thank you.
Well, and just a reminder where we got to from this point. Years ago, it was a line item in our town's budget. It was a free event, but it was something that the taxpayers had to pay for and the staff had to carry out. And now it's something that's more organic, of the community. Yes, we charge a little bit, but the charities that benefit the town all benefit from it. So the community puts their work in, and the community gets something out of it. So it's truly a win-win, and it's off budget. And that's about all I have. I don't have anything further to add. So I will thank you all for coming out. I thank everyone that wished to participate. Please come out more often, not just when you're worried about something, because we need to hear from you. And I thank you all.
And you can watch it replay on the website if you want to.
So can I take a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.